What up? What up? We are here. It's Golden Spaces, an Odyssey original podcast. We are here. It's me, Justin, and Kariemah after the Warriors take another home L to the New York Knicks, missing three starters. Um, Warriors had everybody, and they just laid an egg. From the jump, they laid an egg. Probably worst Draymond game of the season up there.
Yeah.
So not really many bright spots. There was, like Trace and Clay played well.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yep.
else pretty much played bad.
Gary played
Moody,
well.
he played,
Moody had good
got hurt.
minutes until so that explains why we didn't get to see him
Yeah,
anymore. Because I was like, where's he
mm,
at?
exactly. And it's funny because he was like the star of the first Knicks matchup because he just kind of shut Brunson down. No Moody today. Brunson hits us for 34 points
34. Yeah.
and pretty much did whatever he wanted whenever he wanted. Nobody could stay in front of him. Nobody could not foul him. Nobody could do anything with him. So he was just doing whatever he wanted. Josh Hart and Deuce McBride played the entire game and still had more energy than everybody else on the Warriors that played.
Everybody.
And this is kind of like a big issue for the Warriors. Like they don't win those marginal things anymore. Like they don't have the hardest playing team. They don't have the most physical team all the time anymore. And it comes back to bite them when they play these teams. And yeah, that's just the story of the game. Like Josh Hart and Deuce McBride, Dante DiVincenzo, high energy, high pace, quick guards. And then obviously the Knicks shot making kind of put them over the top better than what they usually do. 14 threes from them. Deuce had 29 points, which is obviously a career high. He's probably not
Clearly.
going to score 10 points next game. But uh, yeah, what did you think about this
I,
game?
I just thought typical. Typical. You come off a huge win. You're back home. You know what is at stake. Yet, I don't understand why you're not coming out with energy at all. Like for the first, felt like 20 minutes, there was zero energy from the Warriors, but all of the energy was on the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
They brought it all. And it was just like, can we wake up? And then, GP2 gets in, and all of a sudden, people start playing with energy. We started getting the stops. We started, things started to percolate. But it was just, this game was a disaster and embarrassing, really, because you know what's on the line and you still decided we will come in with this lackadaisical, it just, the starters just stunk. And
Mm-hmm.
we could just go right into it. Pods has now hit his wall. The minutes have to come down dramatically, and he doesn't need to start.
Mm-hmm.
He could just run in that second unit and just keep running and running and running. Because if you're not going to provide any offensive threat in the least, then what is the point of this
Mm-hmm.
exercise? You know,
And
I think
yeah,
it's just
no,
run
I
its
feel you.
course at this point. Clay can come back in the starting lineup. Let's just go from there because he can still run with the second unit as well. But we've got to get off to better starts. We just do.
Got to, got to. This is why I always felt like the whole pod starting thing, experiment, whatever it is, was never the end game. It was never their best option going forward. I think it was a demonstration to get Clay to kind of like lock in a little bit more onto just a mentality of not letting outside noise, cause him to go off the rails a little bit on the court
Hmm.
and be a little bit too emotional. But now that he's clearly found that, I mean, I think you can reinsert him into the starting lineup. I think just in general, you need to just play your highest upside lineup to start anyway. And that was never going to be without Klay Thompson. That just doesn't make a ton of sense. The current starting lineup has no spacing. I said that from the jump. It's heavily reliant on Steph being ridiculously hot. And it was a coincidence that at the time they started experimenting with this lineup, Steph was going crazy, like hitting 10 threes in a game. They were
Hmm.
playing the Memphises, the Atlantas of the NBA. And it was a little bit of fool's gold. Um, so, we're looking at net ratings and we're looking at all these numbers to say, oh, this lineup is dominating. It's like, yeah, because Steph hasn't missed a three in like a month. And the teams that they're playing kind of suck. So the numbers are going to look pretty good. But we see the sample size is growing against good teams. They don't have enough spacing. They don't have enough offensive generation. They don't have enough size. They kind of they're heavily relying on Steph, and teams realize it, so they're just selling out to Steph. And then it's like Draymond and Pods are both traffic cops. They don't want to score. Wiggins is looking like early season Wiggins again. So maybe he's still dealing mentally. Maybe he's mentally just not there because of what he's dealing with family wise. In which case, I would just rather him not play and just deal, get right because he's playing terribly. And teams are loading up on Kaminga now, which becomes even easier when you have no spacing around him. So the bad starts is just you can see it a mile away, coming a mile away with the bad starts. So yeah, I think Clay should start. I mean, like I said, with the whole Wiggins thing, if he's looking like how he's looking in the beginning of the season, which he is now, don't start him. Cut his minutes. Like
Well, his
Moses got
minutes
hurt,
were
but
listen, his minutes was getting cut. We ain't see
that's
Wiggins
true.
in a while, and even in this game, we didn't see him. And then, all of a sudden, but then that's when the report comes out with the left knee soreness for Moody,
Mhm.
because he clearly they started, doing some things, cutting into that lead and getting back into it, and then it was just like, it's happening. It,
They every time they
it
got some
just
momentum, something happened that was just like
every time.
boneheaded. They would throw it away or they would lose it out of bounds or something like that. That it was just one of those nights for the team. But it's disappointing because you got a good win against LA, and it's like, okay, momentum building. We just,
Right.
time to go back home and stack some wins, but they just can't play well at home. There's now 17 and 18 at home.
It's
Just doesn't make
strange.
sense. They were like the
It doesn't
second
make
best or the
any
best
sense.
home team last year. It's
Yeah,
really
I
crazy.
I don't understand it. Like, wait, are you guys nervous at home? How? It just
They might just
doesn't
be too
make sense.
lax. They might just be too lax or something like that. I don't know. Um, let's get into some individual performances because I think the biggest culprit today in terms of like negative impact or just plays, boneheaded plays, was none other than Draymond Green. Like I
Yeah.
said earlier, he probably had his worst game of the season, was not stopping anybody at the rim.
Nope.
Um, he, offensively was not really looking to score. When he was going up, it was like kind of like just throwing anything up at the rim,
Yeah.
turning it over, just not really feeling his impact at all this game, really.
No, not at all. It was horrendous.
Yeah, it's not really much to say about that. Like Hartenstein was a plus 26. Um, just
He
completely
was,
dominated.
yeah. Draymond
Like
who? What?
pretty much.
What?
He had 13, 10, 4 assists, 2 steals, 1 block for Hartenstein. Trace looked, I mean, he was
Uh,
probably our best player
yeah.
tonight. He had 19 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 blocks. I mean, he's been
And he closed
continuing
the
to,
game. Look, he
and he closed
closed
the
the
game,
game.
continuing to play well. Like he's figuring it out. Like in terms of being able to stay on the court and not foul as much. And he's found his niche. He's a player that we said all along can benefit from the gravity of these guys. Clay ended up with 8 assists, largely because he's just throwing it to Trace, and Trace is just dunking it. Like
Yeah.
so, he
Dunking it.
dunking it. Right? Other guys on the team don't want to do that. Um, Other starters, right? Draymond Green, terrible game. Kaminga had an okay game, I'd say. He's still scoring.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but it was. eh, yeah.
It's like you didn't really feel him. Like you don't feel him defensively. You don't feel him on the boards at all. You feel him in
Nope.
transition. You feel him in the half court when he's scoring and he's dunking and stuff like that. But you don't see an impact in the other areas of the court. And we literally just talked about this the other game. Like we
Yep.
need to be like, yo, he's getting every rebound. Like, yo, the stuff that Josh Hart out there is doing. So reason Josh Hart should be getting 11 rebounds and you get 1 rebound, bro.
Wait,
Like
Kaminga
one
had
rebound is crazy. One
one
rebound is
rebound.
crazy. It's insane. Um, yeah, Dante had 4 rebounds. Brunson had 5 rebounds. So that's, I mean, if you don't see that being an issue for this team, I don't know what you're really looking at. Like he got a board, he got to defend, and it has to be done at an extremely high level. It got to be like, yo, Brunson can't get nothing off. Like XYZ player is completely taken out of this game because Kaminga is just shutting his water off. We don't get that. We
Nope.
just don't get it. But we get the consistent few points at the rim per game, and that's cool, but we just need more from him. Andrew Wiggins, we already talked about him. Just terrible
Wait,
performance.
did he have 2 rebounds or 3? Look.
Who, Wiggs?
Yeah, I don't
No,
even.
Wiggs actually had 8 rebounds. He was actually
Yeah,
rebounding.
8 rebounds.
He had 8 rebounds.
Okay.
But everything
Well,
else
everything else was in the dumpster.
was not it. Was not it. He's no longer a guy that's shutting people's water off either. The offense is completely, gone, abandoned, or whatever the case may be. Just not really providing a ton of high level impact that we need. Not consistent. And, like I said, minutes got to be cut. Hopefully Moses is healthy. Like, hopefully he's not
Yeah, I
something that
hope.
lingers.
Look, like, come on,
He
he got to be back next game.
got to be back. Because even when Moses was like missing threes, he's still somebody that can provide some level of offensive, juice, right? In a way that Gary probably can't, because Gary is, even though he did miss a shot tonight, he's just not necessarily a threat from the three. He's not really a threat off the bounce. So he don't really want to get to the basket off the dribble. He want to cut to the basket. So, and he's not as durable, so hopefully Moody can get healthier, because if Wiggins is going to continue to play like this, somebody needs to take those minutes, because it's just going to be a disaster anyway.
Right.
Yeah. Steph was okay. He had moments.
Yeah, he could
He's getting
not
off the
buy
bad
a
starts,
basket.
though.
Yeah.
Last
I
few
mean,
games, he's been getting off the bad
well,
starts.
but listen, he was still out there trying. Like,
Mhm.
he was going to try everything. He was still driving in there and stuff. He wasn't getting his calls, that's for sure. But that's just the
Normal.
name of the game. If your name is Stephen Curry, you will not get calls.
Mm.
Yeah, just not really a great shooting night for him from the perimeter. Like, if some of those, just half of those go, we're in a much better position. I mean, we were right there, and then
Mhm.
just wheels fall off. We can't get a stop. A silly foul, like inopportune times after we just did all that work on defense to get the
Yep.
stop, and then this foul comes. So yeah, he just
Yeah.
But again, if he's not going all the way, that's why we need the others to be able to step up and fill in those moments.
Mhm.
We had Clay and
Yeah.
Trace doing that, but we need in that start is like Wiggins needed to be attacked. He needed to just be more forceful, and just it was just like, we have a game right now. Wiggins. Do you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say this game is probably on Draymond, Wiggins, and Pods. Pods just didn't provide
Oh
much of
yeah.
anything. And they start, and it makes it really hard for Steph and JK to score. Well, it makes it really hard for Steph to score, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he got to work extra hard to get open. Once he gets a little slither of daylight that's open, somebody's doubling.
Already,
So it's like,
yeah.
okay, got to pass to Draymond, who's looking for somebody to finish the play. And it's like, okay, we know JK can finish at the rim. but Pods and Wiggins are like, they're not finishing the
Hi.
plays. They're not scoring.
They're not even
So
like cutting, trying to be involved.
yeah. So it's just a never ending cycle of just passing the ball. And then you try to find Steph again on some type of relocation, probably has limited legs when he finally gets a shot. And it's just the difficulty of the shots that he has to make to keep that lineup afloat, to keep this team afloat when they're in the game is just completely ridiculous. It shouldn't be that way. And, this is what they want, apparently, right? This is the lineup that they want to start and play all these minutes. So we're going to have games like this. And then, boom, the bench comes in and the bench looks like normal, right? Because
Yeah.
they have guys who can do stuff off the dribble. They have Chris Paul who can get into the paint off a pick and roll and make the right pass or shoot and hit the mid range. They have Trace who can finish at the rim, who's actually going to set the screens hard and roll. Then you got Clay coming off pin downs who can shoot, but he can also come off handoffs, get downhill, and draw defenders and kick it out or hit a shot or lob it to the Trace or something like that. So they just have a lot more offensive juice in that second unit. They have a lot more functional size in that second unit, and the lineups make a little bit more sense. Whereas the first unit is just like Steph plus everybody who want to just screen and pass for Steph. It's just like that has a ceiling.
But when Steph and Gary are together, it works. It seems just to work a lot better. And I thought Gary still did a really good job on Brunson, because Brunson really wasn't going off like that when Gary was on him. Yeah, that silly foul when he was shooting that three, that is just, that like just turned things in the opposite direction. And Gary knows better. And you saw in that next shot, Brunson was in the corner. Gary was like, I'm a contest, but I ain't gonna be close. And he missed the shot. So it was just like,
that play and the Draymond out of bounds play were the two like potential momentum. Like we got momentum, we can flip this game, and then it was like momentum right back to the Knicks.
Yeah, and even on that Pods one, where we did everything right on defense, we got the miss, and he does this foul after, so they get the ball back, and Dante hits a three.
Yeah,
and it's just like, right? Dante learned. He definitely learned.
Dante, I mean, like, he's scoring at a level that he did not score at for us at all.
He did not.
Shout out to Dante. But he's been one of the best shooters in the league this season.
Yeah.
But yeah,
give it up to him.
That starting lineup, not it.
Nah,
it's not it.
I can't imagine that it's going to be quite the same next game. I can't.
We'll see.
That would be, I don't know.
I mean, who they play next game? Memphis?
Memphis is up next. Yeah.
They play Memphis next game. They could play that same lineup, and that lineup will probably blitz Memphis because they suck. And then it'll be like, oh, this lineup is so great. And it's like, how do you not see this? But it is what it is. As far as like plus minus goes, Trace, Clay, and Gary were all positives. Chris Paul was a -2, probably because at the end of the game, they were like,
he missed pretty much garbage time. Too. But he missed all the shots too. It's like nobody can make a shot. It was like, oh my gosh, here we go again. We go on these droughts of not scoring that it's like, I don't know what happens in that. It's like no one can make a shot for a good 3-minute, 4-minute stretch. We just can't have those lulls. We just can't.
And this is where, people say the team just needs another guy. Like, like when in those moments, Steph is going to get something going or at least get a good shot. If they had somebody else who can, reliably score in these moments, that would relieve a lot of pressure for a lot of guys and just open things up. Just even the basic simple things that Chris Paul can do in a pick and roll helps this team get open shots so much. Imagine if Chris Paul was like 3 years younger and he can actually score like 20 a game. that would be, crazy. Same thing with Clay. It's like Clay just being able to run off a pin down and take two defenders with him makes so much of a difference. Imagine if he was just, a little bit younger or something like that. So it's this team definitely needs a little bit more offensive juice. And it's one of those things, it's like there's just variance in the performance. So when this team is at their best, when everybody's playing at their best, they can beat pretty much anybody. But like the the possibility or the probability of that happening is
Right.
unpredictable. Like you don't know what version of any player you're going to get from game to
Right.
game. And that's their biggest issue because they have so many guys who are past their prime or at the end of their prime age wise. And you have so many guys who are not yet at their prime because they're so young. So you're going to get high
Or
variance
in
across
their
the board
prime and they play like
and fell off a
they're
cliff.
not in their prime. Like,
Yeah. Yep. So that's the biggest story of the season so far. Uh, I think that's all we got for individual performances. As far as team is concerned, I guess looking forward, we can see what they got going on, uh, who they play coming up, and like who the other teams that they need to jump play. I think they still have one of the easier schedules, which obviously doesn't matter because they just can't win games at home.
right. Right. If
So,
we've got to win these next two. Like there's just we have
mhm.
to. We've got to be able to win at home in front of your home crowd, giving you the support and everything. You can't just lay eggs in front of the home crowd. Like,
You
what
get,
is happening?
I mean, the home crowd's supposed to be
Where,
giving energy and stuff like that, right? Like it's where you feed off
yeah,
that energy and you outplay every. You should be playing harder than every team that comes into your gym for sure.
right. They say the
Like
bench
never
is supposed to
question.
play even better and just all of that. I mean, our bench did play better than clearly our starters, but there should still be some level of we're at home, we've got to protect our home. No, no.
Mm. Yeah.
Energy.
So hopefully they get it sooner rather than later because if they don't, even if they get into the, they're going to be in the play-in, but like y'all can get smashed if you just don't play with the same intensity and effort every single night. And it starts with their athletes. It starts with the athletes. Like we keep saying it, beating the same drum. J.K. Wiggins, yeah, I gotta turn up and be those guys that bring it every night. You got to be the Josh Hart types. You got to be the Dante DiVincenzo types. You got to be these dudes on these other teams, Vanderbilt, like that just don't care. They just go for it and be like, I'm going to give you that energy no matter what. Like that's what's going to put us over the top. And until they do that consistently, they're going to have games where they look great and have games where they look terrible. And then they look great again, then look terrible. They need to find that baseline of consistent energy, defense, attacking the rim relentlessly. And that's what's going to, set a baseline, a foundation for them going forward.
Yeah.
Producer Greg got us some numbers. In their final 15 games, 9 are on the road. Okay, encouraging because they can win games on the road, but
Right.
can't
We
win.
seem to do that. Yeah, but I don't know. We play the Grizzlies and the Pacers. The Pacers, who are
Mm.
just going to be ripping and running. 'Cause that's what they
Hmm.
like to do and score like crazy. But we just got to play better. I mean, it just comes down to play better. And those that aren't playing well, you got to step it up and start playing like you got some sense.
Hmm.
You really do. And I'm really speaking to just like Wiggins at this point. I feel bad,
Supposed to
but
be
I'm
the guy.
just like,
I don't feel bad no more.
where are you? It's just like he's just in and out, and it's like, what is going? What needs to
Hmm.
happen? Like, what do you do before the games where you play like super awesome? Keep that routine. Whatever
Yeah.
that routine is, keep that so we can see this Wiggins all the time. But I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. But look, we may see some Guy Santos at some point. I mean,
Mhm.
he's back. So just to give something, because Wiggins is going to get pulled again, especially the way he played tonight. Like, he was only back in there because Moody got hurt. Because I don't
Yeah,
think we're gonna see any more Williams. I really don't.
yeah.
Because he was just stinking right along with his big brother Draymond. I thought he wasn't gonna close because I was like, yeah, he can sit down.
He started. I mean, they started to get stops, like multiple stops in a row, build
Hmm.
some momentum, and then they just couldn't score.
Yeah, have 4
They
points, and he just
mhm,
right out of his hand. Right out of
lost out of
that would have
bounds.
been a 2-point game at that point. Oh
uh,
Lord. Okay,
we
we
got some
got to
Steve
move
Kerr
forward.
words. We got some Steve Kerr words. They just outplayed us. Simple as that.
I mean, that is what they did, though.
Hmm.
I mean, that's exactly what they did. I'm wondering if Steve Kerr is going to use the timeout like Tibbs does from here on out. As soon as a bucket is made on the team, time out. Nope, they just made a 3 timeout. Nope, stop it. I don't
Hmm.
know. Maybe it could work for us. I don't know, but Tibbs,
Maybe.
as soon as we started to go on a run, nope, he shut it down.
Uh,
Literally after a basket, he was
yeah.
calling a timeout,
Yeah. I
and it
mean,
seemed to work
it's
because
this is one of those teams. I mean, this is one of those teams. Like we already said, the variance is so high in their performance. You don't know what version of each player you're going to get each game, so you might have to micromanage like that. But that's not necessarily Steve's style. But
right.
you might have to do that, like to get the best out of this group. We got some more Steve Kerr words. Just one of those nights where we really didn't get anything going from that starting group. It felt like from the very beginning we were swimming upstream. Probably because you are,
Yep.
Steve. Probably because it has built-in handicaps into that
Mhm.
lineup that you just fail to acknowledge. um, it needs more scoring, shooting specifically. It needs more size. You sent scoring, shooting, and size to the bench. So, uh,
Well, but let's think about this because early on, Pods was actually hitting shots. He was early on.
hmm,
Now he's really come up and hit this wall because he isn't taking those shots anymore. He's kind of like regressed in that sense, like to where maybe he's a little shy at taking those shots because he's missed them a
hmm,
few more times than he was used to. So now it's kind of like coming to a head. And then you have the drop off with Wiggins once again. So it's just like now we got 2 of y'all not doing stuff. And then, now Draymond, he hasn't hit a 3, I think, what, in the past 2 games or whatever. He didn't seem like
hmm.
he had any legs in that one in the corner when he shot that. It was just like, well, that's not going in.
All right.
But I just think now with him acknowledging that, I think maybe going forward, possibly we see a switch up just off of
Got
that.
to. Yeah, that little excerpt.
Because, yeah. I mean, but what do you
Yeah,
think? Just off of that, him saying ain't nothing was going in that one. Like nobody was doing
we'll
nothing.
see. I mean, we'll see every
Yeah.
game they talk about Clay and CB3 off the bench and how they're embracing their bench roles and how it's so good for them and all of this stuff. I think it's all BS, to be honest. Like I think you can get the same version of Clay in the starting lineup and it would make more sense to help the other guys in the starting lineup as well and help the team. But if they're hell bent on having them coming off the bench, then it is what it is. I think it's more so a question of where is Clay's mental space, and how are you navigating having both Clay and Steph on the court? Because for the majority of their careers, um, both of them were a little bit more explosive as scorers, right? Like,
Hmm.
so if Clay didn't touch the ball or get a shot for the first 4 or 5 minutes of the game because Steph's going off, it didn't matter because Clay's going to hit 3 or 4 threes in a row at some point in the game. Anyway,
Right.
same thing with Steph. Now it's like they got to get a little bit more spread out scoring. They're not going to, they can get hot, but just on a game by game basis, I think you get the best version of Steph when he's like heavily featured and his usage is really high and he's, you know, getting into his relocation and handoffs and dribbling and getting to his shots and stuff like that. And that's why I think they initially went to the starting lineup because it's a bunch of guys that just want to pass the Steph. So he just gets hot real quick. But
Hmm.
that has a ceiling to it because teams just start the game plan for it. And then now Clay going to the bench, it's like, okay, we can just kind of not force feed Clay, but we can give Clay a bunch of shots without the thought of, oh, he's taking shots away from Steph. So he's freely just getting his rhythm shots and stuff like that. So there is an advantage to separating them a little bit more. But all that means is you can just bring Clay, you can just send Clay to the bench a little bit earlier in the game to me.
Right.
But if
Right.
you need to start better, so you need to start the game with your best players.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Um, so that's up to Steve. Steve just got to do a better job of featuring both Steph and Clay when they're playing together,
Hmm.
and also kind of being a little bit more micromanagey on the sidelines, calling timeouts, getting in guys' faces and telling them, "Yo, Wiggins, we need you to play better, play harder, go to the rack. JK, we need you to play defense. We need you to rebound.
Yeah.
um, Pods, if you're open, we need you to shoot the three."
Yeah.
Simple as like, yeah,
Yeah, you've got to be a threat. Like you
hmm
can't just be there.
yeah.
So, yeah. But I
We
think
can't have too many traffic cops.
right.
That's
And
one of the biggest issues.
I think Steve is doing a better job also of making the point of either one, Clay or Steph, has to be on the court at all times. And I think we saw
hmm
that because there wasn't a time where it was just like, wait, they're both sitting down and we ain't got nothing happening. So
hmm
at least that balance has come into it. And then you saw them playing together clearly, they do that. They do that the best.
hmm
But I think even though early on making that switch for Clay to sit down was he he was forcing a lot of stuff in that starting lineup to where it was like, dude, you're like messing up
mm
all of the flow. So let's just kind of rejudge real quick. And that's how that ended up happening. I mean, you talk to a person for so long, and then you've got to really like just rip the band-aid off and say, okay, you're not getting it because you're still out there doing the foolishness. Get to the bench right quick. And then all of a sudden things click. Like, yeah, okay. But now I think clearly with what's been going on, he should just get on back,
hmm
starting. And like you said, he can easily get pulled a little bit earlier so that he will then run with the second unit like he's always done anyway. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I think just in general, the way this team is made, their best lineup, like configurations, is like one of at least one of Steph and Clay. You got to
yeah.
have somebody athletic that can finish the plays when they take two people with them, which is either JK or Trace. And then you just fill in the rest of the gaps with guys that make sense. You can't just have too many of the uh, the traffic cops, right? You got three traffic cops on this team.
Mhm.
It's Trey,
Yeah.
it's Pods, and it's Chris Paul,
Yep.
right? So if you want one of those guys to handle the ball, then okay, you bring Chris Paul or you bring Pods in there for point guard duties and have one of the Splash Brothers just running around screens and stuff like that. But if you do that, then you probably got to have some more like shooting on the court if you're going to have them out there with Draymond too. So it's just, I mean, I think this stuff is pretty simple, but I mean, they like to make it complicated. Um, but I guess we'll see going forward what they decide to do if Moses is healthy going forward. Let's see. him get a little bit more playing time. He should never been removed from the rotation in the first place. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Here we are.
here we are. Here we are. So they got the Pacers next, right? They got the Pacers next, and they got
Grizzlies.
Memphis next.
Yeah. Grizzlies
Hmm.
first, then the Pacers.
All right, they got the Grizzlies. They should beat the Grizzlies. Then they should beat the Pacers to finish out this homestand. We'll see. We can keep saying should, and then they just go do this. But the Lakers got to win tonight over the Hawks, beat them by 30. So they are back in 9th. We are back in 10th. And that gap between 10th and 6th is growing because the Kings also won tonight, pretty sure. So,
Great.
so great.
Fantastic.
Yep.
I was hoping
I think
that this was going to be that game. I'm like, all right, we just moved up some more. Well, gained, some more momentum in the standings, and that's
it's not what happened. So, I mean, looking on the bright side, I guess like you kind of want to avoid Denver as long as possible in the playoffs anyway.
yeah.
And they're currently third. They're tied for second with the Timberwolves. So if you get 8th, you're out of their bracket. Or if you get, well, you're not going to get up to 5th. Probably not. So if you get 8th, you're out of Denver's bracket. So you either want Denver to get up to 1st and you get one of those 7 or 6 spots, or they stay in their 2nd or 3rd and you get that 8th spot, which they're in position to potentially do now. But you got to at least get up to 9 or 8 so you can get one of those playing games at home. Or maybe not because you can't win at home. But
that's all going to change.
It's all going to change, I guess.
Because we're going to take out Memphis. Yeah, let's go.
This is like supposed to be like a very soft part of their schedule where they can just like start stacking up wins just from schedule, and they are shooting themselves in the foot. They cannot escape their own problems. But yeah, we got anything else?
No, just pray that Moody will be able to go Wednesday against Memphis, and that we pull out the win. We need it. And let's show the home fans in Chase Center that we do care, that we can be that team that they know us to be. So that's all.
Let's do it. You heard it here. Let's do it for the fans at Chase. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us. It's Go to Spaces Pod. You can follow us on all the socials, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. Watch us on YouTube, 95.7 The Game's YouTube channel under their podcast feed. We are there. Subscribe to them. Like all of our videos. Leave a comment, all that good stuff. And we will catch you guys after the Memphis game, whenever that is, in a few days, 2 days.
Wednesday.
It's Wednesday. Cool.
Martes.
We will see you guys.
Peace.
Miércoles.
Oh, yeah, miércoles. Yeah. Not Tuesday. It's Wednesday. Look at you.